represent the government of Nigeria in this matter have been representing over the past 5.5 years. The case has been described in the press as the biggest lawsuit in the world. And the reason for that is the value of the claim, which is $11 billion. The main part of the case is over. Nigeria won. And what I want to talk about today is, for those who are not familiar with the case, it was quite a prominent issue in Nigeria itself and observed in other parts of Africa. But I want to give a quick potted history of what the case involved and what actually happened, and then just end by some lessons learned and how ultimately it was a good news story for the country. So the case goes back 15 years, where in 2010 the government was looking to procure an agreement to deal with gas supply and processing. So there was an issue with domestic power shortages, and the government was looking at resolving that. And so there was a procurement process, and the government ended up signing a 20-year agreement with this company, PNID, which was a BVI company with no assets, no track record, and essentially a two-man band. And this agreement was entered into but never performed. So the reason the agreement was entered into, there was a number of issues around bribery and bypassing the regular procedures, which meant that the normal procurement processes, the normal due diligence, and the normal safeguards weren't complied with. What then happened is that the government was not in a position to perform this agreement. It was basically a scam, and within a couple of years, PNID started an arbitration process. If we can move to the next slide, we'll have the chronology. The arbitration lasted 5 years and ended with an award being made against the Nigerian government in the amount of $6 billion, which represented 20 years worth of profits in this agreement. Now, the following that outcome, PNID began the process of enforcing that award against Nigeria's assets in the UK and the US. And at that point, Nigeria approached my firm and we got involved. So it looks like a pretty adverse situation for the country. And what we then did was we took a number of steps. The first was to open a challenge to the award on the basis that it had been procured by fraud. By then, the Nigerian government, we are now several administrations down the line, a new government has come in and has opened criminal investigation into what has happened. Why did this agreement, why was this agreement entered into? Why are we in this situation? And that investigation, coupled with our investigation, where we went around the world, we obtained a number of court orders against banks, against other parties. We investigated a vast web of financial transactions. We discovered that there had been bribes paid at each stage of this process, which had led to this outcome. So the key thing from a legal perspective was that when you have an arbitration award, you have 28 days to challenge it. It's a very stringent process, more so than the court process. Arbitral awards are designed to be final, and it's very difficult to reopen them. We were 3 years outside the time limit. And the first step was to try and persuade the court to extend the time to allow us to bring this challenge. And that had never been done before. 3 years is an extreme outlier in terms of the amount of time taken to bring the challenge. We did that in 2020. We made this application. We were successful. It was the first time in English legal history that a party had managed to obtain an extension of time of this length. This then opened the way to a full-blown trial to challenge the award, which took another 2 years. And in 2023, October 2023, Nigeria obtained a landmark judgment setting aside what then amounted to, with interest, an $11 billion award. So Nigeria was successful in overturning that award, and on top of that was awarded its legal costs of doing so. We are still in the process of recovering those costs, and the process is still underway. The main event, which is removing this huge liability, which amounted to 1/3 of the country's foreign reserves, multiple times its education, security, and health budgets, was a positive outcome at the end of a long road, where this liability had a huge impact on the macroeconomic aspect of things in terms of the country's exchange rates, its the rate at which it would borrow, a number of other things. So finally, I just want to come on to the last slide, lessons learned. There is a huge amount of learning and insight from this case. I've really given a very much the tip of the iceberg in terms of what occurred. But I think if there is anything to take away from this, I would say 3 things. The first is Nigeria has and did have a sophisticated system of anti-money laundering laws, anti-corruption laws, but that doesn't stop a few bad eggs from exploiting or being exploited and manipulating the system. So what happened in this case was that bribes were made in cash, offshore accounts were used, and there were thinly disguised gifts that were exchanged. So, arguably customary gifts. And this is where the problems began. So the first lesson is to stringently enforce your money laundering and anti-corruption rules. The second lesson is the procurement process. It is essential to rigorously follow that process. In this case, there is a whole architecture, a whole infrastructure of public bodies and technical committees and a number of organisations which are designed to test and to vet public procurement. But regardless of that, there were ways in which the certain individuals were able to bypass that and to rubber stamp and approve a contractor who was clearly unsuitable. So things like looking at financing arrangements, looking at due diligence thoroughly, looking at track record, ensuring that internal procedures are followed, and that everything from the lowest levels up to ministerial level, that there is a stringent process in place. That is essential. And finally, the legal contract itself. This contract, which led to an $11 billion liability, was 10 pages long. It didn't have any termination provisions in favour of the government. It didn't have any checks or balances. It was a very one-sided agreement. And nobody with, there was a minor government official who signed this thing in exchange for a few $1,000 in bribes. And it basically put the government in a position where it was stuck and had to deal with this liability for 15 years onwards. So it is really important that these agreements are properly drawn up, negotiated, and advice is obtained, regardless of whether you're dealing with a fraudulent entity or whether you're dealing with a global corporate, a multinational. It is essential that there is a level playing field and equality advance when we go into these discussions, and that all the usual clauses you would expect to see to protect your position are in place. So I don't want to intrude any more on your time, but I just thought, and I was invited here to impart some insights and lessons learned from this case in the hope that it may be useful to other countries, as we were told in Nigeria, that it is not just this case created a deterrent for other fraudsters and scam artists, and it wasn't just a landmark precedent in the case of Nigeria, but for the rest of the continent as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, as well as the lessons that we can learn as a continent and as a nation in enforcing anti-money laundering laws, ensuring that we have proper procurement processes in place, and also all the legal elements around that. But thank you very much. That was very insightful. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to another panel discussion. So throughout the course of today, we've been hearing about various different areas of development within Africa, of leadership. But this time now, we're going to be flipping the coin, and we're going to be looking at something which is incredibly important, which is looking at investing in Africa's development through the lens of health, trade, investment, and ICT. So I'm going to be calling on the session moderator shortly, but before I do, let me tell you a little bit about him. So the session moderator is Professor Tahir Akhtar, and he's chairman of ALM Global Holdings PLC within the UK UAE, and also a member of the ALM Advisory Board. So he's the founding chairman of ALM's Holdings, the diversified investment group, and as a trusted advisor to governments across the Middle East and Africa, he also plays a key leadership role in ALM Global, the world's largest corporate services provider. With his extensive expertise in international investment and development, Professor Akhtar will serve as the session moderator for the discussion on investing in Africa's development, focusing on critical sectors including health, trade, and investment in ICT. So, ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask you to put your hands together for our wonderful session moderator this afternoon. Please put your hands together for Professor Tahir Akhtar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very kind introduction. This panel is a mix of quite interesting personalities. So let me introduce you to them one by one. And I would quite like to introduce you to Dr. Olufemi Oginiemi, who is currently the advisor to the President of Nigeria. May I ask him to please come and join us on this panel. What I didn't tell you, that many years ago, when I was a senior registrar at King's College, Femi was a training unit. So then, how the life has changed in that year. Welcome. Right. So let's look at the other members on our panel. So may I please ask Dr. Armstrong Takang to come and join us on this. Dr. Armstrong is from the Ministry of Finance Incorporated of Nigeria. May I please introduce you to Abdullahi Nur Usman, who is the CEO of Hormuz Salam Foundation of Somalia. And Dr. Precious Lunga, the CEO of Ruba Circle UK. Right, okay, so we have 30 minutes for this session. I'll try to keep it in time because I'm already hearing complaints that things go on a bit longer than they should. So all my panel members, you have 3 minutes to express your expert opinions on your specialties, and then we'll try to keep 2 minutes for question and answers towards the end. So may I please start with you, Dr. Armstrong? Can you please share with us an outline of how Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Investment is leveraging Nigeria's nearly 50% non-oil GDP and growing economy to attract capital into transformative infrastructure projects?
Thank you very much, Professor. So first of all, let me acknowledge the organizers led by His Excellency, the Chair of the Advisory Board, for the excellent work of the organization. So for context, you know, I used to work here, so it's the homecoming before I moved to the US and I went back home. And I'm really glad about the discussion around the issue and what it means. Your Excellency, we did talk about what is it about. I had a mentor of mine who said something to me that was quite profound. And he said to me that a poor man in midst of rich people is likely to be a rich man and benefit from what it means to be in the midst of rich people. But the rich man in the midst of poor people is still poor. And so we as Africans, so long as we deprioritize sovereign prosperity and focus on individual prosperity, we will still be poor people. Because how do you achieve it? The respect that you are poor is a function of the passport that you carry. It is a function of the perception of your sovereign nation. And so each of us who have the privilege to serve in public offices need to remember that it is about the service. It is not about personal aggrandizement. It's not about personal prosperity. It is about the fact that we have an opportunity to ensure that we leverage on all that our nations have to ensure that there's sovereign prosperity and that the possession of our sovereignty is at the highest level possible. And so when we had a challenge during COVID of most of the economies ground into a halt and many nations struggling to mobilize resources to finance their budget, we had to come back to the drawing board to say, how do we ensure that we're able to mobilize resources to fund our budget? The first question is, all these investments or investment assets that we own as a nation, to what extent are we leveraging on that to mobilize cash flow for our country? And it became very clear to us that a lot of the times, and this is not just to Nigeria, but in most African countries, we talk about how indebted, highly indebted African countries are. How often do we have a discussion about what we want, what is what, and how to optimize that before? And so the first question for us was we needed to create an assets register of all our investment assets. I use this example. How is it possible to rank a country like DRC as a very poor nation, despite all the endowments and the resources that it has? So for us, we needed to go back to the board and say, what is it that we own, the investment asset that we own? How much is it worth? And how do we sweat those assets to generate cash flows to finance our budget? That was the first exercise. The second was to say all of the state-owned enterprises that are commercial enterprises, to what extent are we holding them to account to make sure that they are delivering risk-adjusted returns? Because those same enterprises, if they were in private hands, they would be delivering value. Why are we not getting that value from that? So we focus on ensuring that all our state-owned enterprises have to be called to account to make sure that they're delivering value commensurate with all the investment that we are doing. And then the third is the fact that we need to mobilize capital at scale to finance different priority sectors of the economy, using our sovereign status, using the assets that we have, including the sovereign rating that we have. And so for us at Ministry of Finance Incorporated, that was a new agenda that we set for ourselves in 2023. And so far, we've made significant progress in terms of creating an inventory of our assets. Right now, our assets are about $40 billion that we put together and still counting. We're holding all our state-owned enterprises to account to ensure that the managers and the board of those enterprises must deliver returns on the assets that they're managing. And thirdly, we're creating structures that make it easier for us to mobilize investments using blended finance. For instance, we just set up a real estate fund that is about $1 trillion, that's about $625 million to finance local companies using blended finance model. So for us, we believe that it is important that we need to rethink our financial architecture that is more suitable for our economies and suitable for our people, and that is focused on bringing prosperity for our country as well as for our people.
Thank you very much. Very informative and very helpful. I'm pleased to say that another member of the panel, Dr. Charlie Ola, the CEO of Kenya Medical Training College, has also here in the room to join us. Please welcome Dr. Charlie. May I now please ask our distinguished panelist, Abdullahi Noor Usman, who is the CEO of Hormuz Salam Foundation, that could he please explain to us how the Hormuz initiatives to help raise Somalia's financial inclusion from 8% in 2015 to nearly 35% in 2024, with mobile money as the key driver.
Thank you very much. Also, I would like to extend my appreciation and thanks to African Leadership Organization for organizing and bringing for us here today. I am the CEO of the Salam Foundation. The Salam Foundation, it is a corporate social responsibility of Telecom and Salam Somali. Telecom is the largest mobile media provider in Somalia, and the Salam Somali Bank is the largest commercial bank in Somalia. We built financial infrastructure tailored to the reality in the ground. In 2015, only 8% of the Somali population have access to financial services because of the absence of national ID and state of currency and other challenges. Actually, we made a differentiation of the customer. This is the reality on the ground. We to address challenges to facilitate or pioneer the capability of the country and create trust. So we have built a mobile money platform, which is a free of use, which is offline, and also a beautiful language. The mobile money platform made us that 70% of the population have access to mobile money services. And also it's become the most adopted platform worldwide. It contributed to the economic growth of the country. It improved the security of citizens, worked with the Somali government on tertiary programs through the mobile platform. Also, the Somali security sector form has contributed on the mobile platform we have. And also, the mobile platform we integrated for banking, especially in South Africa and some other local banks as well. So people will be able to move the money from their accounts from a very area without a hassle. So working with Somali government shoulder to shoulder, we actually built a infrastructure which contributes the Somali economy. Today, over 100 INGOs are using our mobile money platform to transfer tax payment, which gives an economic injection to Somalia. And also, our mobile money platform facilitates the safety net program funded by the World Bank, which supports those who are to actually less vulnerable, those who need support. So this basic technology also relates to knowledge. Cheapest one is data. We are the cheapest in Africa, and also we are making Somalia a gateway for the fiber internet. We have money to bring to Somalia a number of fiber cables from the north to from the south. And we hope that Somalia will be the gateway for the Horn of Africa and the wider Africa, especially on fiber internet and the communications. So that's the way actually we made possible to increase the access to Somalia.
Thank you very much for that very informative presentation on how you're developing using the ICT, the economy of Somalia. May I please now ask Dr. Precious Lunga, who is the CEO of Oba Circle UK, to share with us how leveraging the digital tools to close Africa's chronic disease care gap, and how Uber Circle uses the mobile technology and AI to deliver personalized care to the patients.
Thank you, Prof. And first of all, thank you to all our guests. If I ask everyone in this room to say, you've never come across a man with something, high blood pressure or diabetes or kidney disease, please put up your hand. If you haven't, really, exactly. Because I think almost everyone in this room will know of someone who has experienced it themselves. Why is this important? It's important for our continent because 1 in 4 adult African has high blood pressure, and the numbers are going up. In 5 years' time, more than double the number of people having chronic health conditions. At the same time, we don't have enough people to provide the health services. So chronic health conditions need continuous oversight, and we don't have enough doctors and nurses. If you walk down the road, turn left, out of the hotel, Houston Road, almost every country in Africa is represented in that. Because Africa is very good at training healthcare professionals, but we don't always keep them. And they're very good all over the world. So how can we solve that problem? Technology. We can leverage AI to leapfrog and actually strengthen our health system. Because without help, all what we're trying to do with development, we won't get far because we will lose the most productive people. And that's why I founded Baba Circle. I'm an epidemiologist, I deal with numbers, and I'm seeing the numbers going up of hospitalization, early deaths. All of these preventable. It all depended on where you live. If you live in London, you can live to 101 with diabetes and hypertension. But if you live in Harare or elsewhere, you may have a stroke early on, which takes you out of the job market. So what we've developed is a platform that actually provides personalized and localized support for people with chronic health conditions. We're in East Africa right now, we'd like to be all across the continent. And what we do is these services enable the users to actually access services. It doesn't matter whether you're in Nairobi or you're somewhere in the rural area, you're a farmer, you can still access those services because you can connect to a healthcare provider remotely. They can track your conditions from day to day because you can have connected devices. And if you need to have an emergency hospital appointment, they can let you know, so you don't have to travel unnecessarily. And by the way, because we can also track what medications you're taking, we're convincing you to take them more regularly. We can also harness the power of economies of scale and reduce the cost of that medication. So by tackling at all these different levels, we can keep our continent healthier and more prosperous. And that's a really key point if we're going to reach the development goals that we need to reach. And after all, health is a universal right. Thank you.
I'd probably agree with my mom, doctor, and I think we need more discussion on this because this will change in many ways the quality for our population, in, not only just in Africa but worldwide. May I please now take this opportunity of asking our learned friend to tell us his transition from being a doctor to helping the government of Nigeria, helping the exports in Nigeria, and how would that model that they developed, how would that help increase exports and create wealth and prosperity for the rest of Africa?